Hello, everybody. My name's Charlie Zimmerman, and I am going to be a senior at Ohio State. I'm graduating in 2022. This is my project, my capstone project for my leadership minor. I really had a really tough freshman year, and something I've been really passionate about is trying to find ways for first-year students to feel like they're not so alone. Because I know I really struggled with my freshman year. And so I was hoping I could do this video project where I have a series. I have 6 episodes, each one talking about a different aspect of the first year in college, and just some advice from different people in different fields on different topics. And so this first episode is on balancing extracurriculars, and especially in the athletic realm. I'm sitting here with my really good friend, Kael Gannon. And we're going to hopefully talk about that, and hopefully we'll get into some interesting stuff. So, Kael, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your major, where you go to school, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so my name's Kael. I'm going to be an upcoming junior at Wheaton College, which is a small liberal arts Christian school outside of Chicago. I'm on the swim team at Wheaton, and also I am a secondary education and history double major.
Which I know from talking to you, you do a lot of school. So really the first thing that I want to talk about is that, because we obviously know each other pretty well, and I know just how busy you are. Go through just like a standard day in the life of a college athlete or a college swimmer, and just what that looks like.
Yeah, so in season, I guess we'll take a Monday. So I'll wake up at 6 in the morning and do an hour weights, then do an hour swim. And then I'm out of the pool at 8 a.m., go get a quick breakfast, so that I'm there for my 8:30 classes. I have classes throughout the day. If I'm lucky, I get a nap in after classes end, but then it's straight to the 2-hour afternoon practice. And then the rest of the night, just pretty much doing homework the rest of the night, because that's Monday, got to get a good start.
Definitely seems like you're busy. Or even during the season, I know from trying to talk to you that sometimes it's hard to get a phone call.
Yeah.
But so that's a pretty typical day. Do you do that pretty much every day of the week? Are weekends different? Do you have practices on the weekends? Right, just weekly, right? How does that look?
So that was Monday. Our Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are all pretty similar. Only difference, Tuesday, Thursdays, we have mornings off, which is a huge blessing. We only have afternoon practices. And then same with Saturday, just one morning swim, maybe an extra lift. So it's a good balance between hard days and easier days. But then Sundays we have off, fortunately. It's our day to recover, and then we can get back after it.
Yeah, so that seems like I know that's quite the grind, right? So that's just in season, right? So when you factor in meets, right? How do meets fit into your week? Especially if you have to travel, how do you do that? How do you do that in balancing that with classes?
Yeah, so I guess typical season we have maybe 10, 12 meets. That's just my estimate off the top of my head. Well, we were fortunate to have a good pool, so we host a lot of meets at home, but we're also traveling. I think our farthest meet was in Michigan last year, which is 3.5 hours away, and that presents all different sorts of problems, but just balancing school and everything else.
Yeah, so let's dive into that a little bit. So how, when you're on the bus, right, how do your professors obviously know you're a swimmer, they know you're traveling, so I assume attendance and all that stuff is excused, but how do you have time to do homework when you're at these meets? Is it just like you have to do it in the bus or in between swims or that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely not in between swims.
Okay.
We always take time to just focus on the meet when they're there. But in a perfect world, all our meets would be on weekends where we wouldn't miss classes, and if they're all on Saturday, then I think we'd all just probably take that day away from homework. And some meets are on Saturdays, which are nicer, but we do have several meets that are during the week, maybe say a Wednesday. Like I know the past year when we did travel to Michigan, like I had a microeconomics exam that day, and I had to miss the class. And there was a couple other swimmers in the class with me, and we obviously had like excuse letter to miss class from our swim coach. But a lot of the teachers don't care, and so we still had to take the exam on the way to the swim meet, and that was really unfortunate because you just want to be like focusing on the swim meet.
Or the swim meet, right?
Or sleeping or covering anything other than school, but
right.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. But when you know a meet's coming up, you try to be diligent and get all your stuff done, but it also doesn't always happen.
For sure.
It's all about finding that balance.
For sure. Yeah, college. Right. College is hard. College academics are hard for me, and I'm not doing all these practices and stuff. So I imagine that's a whole other. And so the other thing, right, is I know Wheaton's a very different school from Ohio State, and I'm hoping that this is to other people, not just going to Ohio State. But what kind of resources does Wheaton provide to help you out, maybe just specifically the athletic program to help you out academically, but also broader, right, the college? If you need help with classes, there's like a tutoring system available, right? Do you take advantage of that?
Probably not as much as I should.
Sure.
I guess that's more of a personal stance, like I need to do this myself. But I've learned in college that's gotten me in trouble. it's good to have
Me too.
help from others or
For
whatnot.
sure.
And we have a student resource center at the library where you can go have people look over your papers, give you advice and everything. And since we're Wheaton's D3, we don't have study tables like maybe like a D1 school does, but at least the team, they'll help you because they've been through a lot of the same gen eds maybe, and so there's always people that will be able to lend a helping hand because they've been through it too.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. So that's super. That sort of touches on what I'd like to talk about next, which is like the social part of it, right? And because I know that college is. I definitely when I came to college, I went to Ohio State, and I knew a few people came from my high school, but not a ton, right? And none of my closest friends from high school went to my college. So I definitely found myself struggling to find my people, right? Especially that first year. And actually, you know that from me talking to you, right? My freshman year of college. So this applies not just to swimming, to athletics, but to any extracurricular, right? How did being involved in this extracurricular help you build connections with other people? I know Wheaton's a little smaller of a school, but how did that help you out?
Yeah, I have two things actually. So Wheaton does a kind of unique thing where they offer this thing called Passage, where it's a week. There's a few different options. I did one that's a week. It's like a week-long camp before school starts, and you get a couple credits for it. But you're basically out in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, and you're doing all sorts of different activities, but in different groups, and that's a whole nother thing to get into. But
it's like summer camp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
for people going to
squish
college.
into one and nonstop work and everything.
Cool.
And so that was daunting because that was like my first time experiencing. Oh, I don't know anyone.
Right.
Who am I gonna find out to hang out with or open up to or whatnot?
Behind the scenes, we're both from Ohio, right?
Yeah,
So you're going to a different state, right?
And I didn't want to go at all. It was pretty much my mom and sister pushed it on me, and I was like fine. And I'm very grateful looking back on it that I did, because that way I came to campus and I already had people that I could go to, I could reach out to so and so. And then I also had the swim team, which was probably the biggest help, because the swim teams there is like a family. And I came onto campus and people knew who I was that even I didn't know who they were. And from day one, we were all meeting up together as a swim team, and it just helped me get through classes and have people to hang out with and eventually branch out. And so I can't imagine life not having that, because that has to be super daunting. I roomed with the swimmer too, so we were able to go through everything together. I can't imagine having a roommate that I didn't know and it not working out and it just being awkward and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, and something I'm really passionate about, right, is total transparency, right? And to be quite honest, I had a really hard time with my roommate freshman year, right? And like I've said a couple of times today, right, I had a really hard time making friends in college, right? And so, right, I didn't prep this question ahead of time, but just in the interest of normalizing stuff, being transparent, what would you say is the hardest thing that you had to deal with your freshman year? And I know it's a big question to be asking. What are some of the most stressful things that struck you? Was it the adjusting to academics, right? That's
anything.
Yeah, any sphere of college.
I think it's maybe not one thing in specific. It's just kind of everything piling on at once.
Okay.
Because it's such a big change in your life. and it hits a certain point in the year where you're like, oh, you're still figuring out who you are, you're still figuring out who your friends are. Oh, you're also like taking however many credits. I was taking 18, and then you're getting stuck with classes and homework, and then also swimming on top of that, and then being away from home. So just kind of mixture of all of that, like just feeling overwhelmed a lot, and kind of a sense of like alone, like, oh, like I don't know what to do from here. But,
yeah, and I think one of the most helpful things anyone told me was one of my cross country coaches, and he ended up being one of my closest friends in high school. Where he told me, right, every college freshman has like a crisis moment before Thanksgiving, right? And it happens right around that time, but it happens right before Thanksgiving, and that didn't make it any better when I had mine, right? But it was like everybody goes through this stuff, and people don't talk. I don't think we talk about it enough, right? And so that everyone sort of feels like when they go through it, right, they're the only person going through it, but everyone does. And so, just in that vein, how, especially with your being so busy, which applies to anybody, it could be orchestra, it could be student government, it could be anything, right? And I'll talk about student government later on in another episode. But so how did you, with all these with your extracurricular taking up so much of your time, having to social and academics, what are some of the things that you did to take care of your mental health, right? So because that's unbelievably important, especially when you get to college.
Yeah. Right off the bat, I kind of think I started off my freshman year a lot trying to do homework in my room because I'm just so tired, like throughout the day, like I don't want to leave again, like I just want to be able to do homework and then go right to bed. But my freshman roommate and I got along, and even the sophomore year too, we all got along, which means though we were all always going on tangents, like, oh, neither of us really want to be studying, so like here, like let's put on music instead, or let's grab like some ball and throw it in like our hamper and make up a new game or whatever. And so no studying really actually got done, and then we just wouldn't get sleep and then get into bad habits. So I really had to force myself to find different spots on campus to get my homework done, so I could like stay focused on everything, because like adapting to life is being on top of anything, or because sleep is important, eating is important. But also like finding those activities, because also college is about experiences and not just all school.
Sure.
So just find different groups. I like playing like all different sports, like basketball, spike ball, football, ultimate frisbee, like any of those things. Like you just find groups on campus. Intramurals are a big thing. You can find group part of. But yeah, just finding what you like and then finding other people to do them with you is just super helpful, and it takes your mind off all the stress of everything.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you touched on like honestly what I think is one of the most important things of college is that you get to college, or at least this happened to me, right? I got to college and I realized nobody was making me go to sleep or eat or do any of that sort of stuff, right? No one was making. It wasn't like I was home and my parents were at, oh, we're eating dinner at 6 o'clock, right? But I realized, number one, how important it is to do those things, right? Making sure no matter how much homework I have or what extracurriculars I'm doing, I'm getting 8 hours of sleep, or however much sleep you need. Different people need different. Getting 8 hours of sleep a night, incredibly important, right? And making sure I'm eating during the day, right? Eating at least two meals during the day, right? Going and working out, right? Building myself even though you don't have to do anything at certain times anymore, because you're not going from school to 8 to 3, which was a big adjustment for me too. It's not like high school where you go from 8 to 3 or 7:15 to 3 or whatever it was. Even though you have all this extra time and you think you can sort of flex up, make your schedule, but building a schedule for myself and saying, okay, no matter what, at 11:30 I'm going to eat lunch, right? At 3:30 I'm going to go for a run. I need to get a workout in, right? Doing that sort of thing, building a routine is something that was definitely helpful for me too in dealing with. And I obviously have less effort than you do, right? So it's like I'm sure that's probably also something that.
I mean, and I've talked to. Yeah, routine so important. I've talked to other college athletes, and I think they'll agree with me that probably, I don't want to say the worst time, that's a bad way to put it, but the least productive time of a student athlete is probably the time when they're not in their sport. Like, so swimming's a winter sport, so we have captain's practice at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, but nothing like fully structured. It's pretty optional. And that's the time where it is optional, or if say you have a week off, like completely, like then like we don't know what to do with ourselves, like we just that sense of routine and schedule is gone, and we're back to like a deer in the headlights, like what's going on, and then we get lazy and bad habits. So for having a healthy like lifestyle in college, I think is very important that you find a schedule that works for you, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, and I have friends that are just like strangely nocturnal, right? And they stay up all night and they sleep during the day, and they're taking asynchronous classes, and that works for them, and that's fine, right? If that's your schedule, then that's totally right. No judgment there. But it's like at least having something where you're doing where you're not sleeping from 3 to 9 one day, and then from 8 to 4, and then bouncing it around, right? Being able to do that is something that I think is super important. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for joining me on this today.
It's my pleasure.
I'm hoping there are going to be 5 more episodes linked out. I'm introducing it like we're doing this interview, like this is the first one we've done, but this is the last one that I'm doing. Well, we're making the first episode. So please stick around. There are going to be more videos. Pop around, and there's one on choosing your major, resume and career advice, study habits, managing yourself in classes, joining extracurriculars. Just honestly, I hope that this helps. If this helps one person, then I guess that's something that's successful to me. So thanks for joining in, and thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
So hopefully I'll see you next time.